Now being joined by Leeman, who's Belgian risk manager and was firm spokesman on captives when you were serving on the board, and L.Nihoul, who's board member of the Luxembourg Risk Management Association, which is obviously where a lot of captives are, and the guys have just been running a workshop about captives. So it seems from the chat we were having before, there's a perceived kind of imbalance about captives and how they're perceived. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, on the imbalance that there is I think it's some of the authorities that think that captives are tax evasion plans. So, as firma, the main thing we have to do is educate, and educate both sides of the spectrum. That being the authorities, we try to educate them, the OECD amongst others, to explain them what is a captive, how it works, why we need it, and then just one of the risk management tools that we use, and that we don't make a living out of it. It's certainly not a tax evasion plan, it's just a tool amongst other risk management tools, so that we explain to the authorities. On the other hand, we also have to educate our members on what not to do, because we have to admit that in the past some excesses have happened. And unfortunately that puts a shadow over the complete industry. There are really exceptions, but the thing is that the authorities tend to focus on those exceptions and think that everybody is doing what those guys are doing, and therefore we have to educate our own industry what certainly not to do, and in some cases what they should change within their captives.
Okay. And I'm guessing you obviously feel there's still a relevancy for captives for large European companies. A few words on that, Laura?
Oh yes, for sure. I mean, if you think what as Carl said, it's about the misperception by the authorities is completely missing the technical aspect of it. I mean, how we use a captive, how it's useful for the self-financing strategy of any company. As Carl mentioned again, I mean, that's really a risk management tool that we can use to improve our risk transfer strategy, how we finance our retention, how we finance what is not insurable in the market, how we can use this, internal capacity really to improve also the quality of our cover and of our insurance process. If you think about a multinational company having to flow money in entities for paying claims, I mean, captive is still a very useful tool. So I believe for large European companies, but also in other parts of the world, that's still a very, very relevant tool. And that's why we really want to focus on education, but also on discussion with the authorities to keep that tool up and running and useful for everyone.
Well, maybe a little bit more about that regulatory landscape and the BEPS regulations that sit in there.
The BEPS, yes. So I believe that will bring a new challenge for risk manager, mainly in terms of knowledge and skill set you will need to communicate with the tax authorities when you will have to report about your premium allocation, how you use your captive, about the governance of your captive, the substance of your company. That's another way of communicating. I mean, it's we are used to communicate about insurance, about financial aspect to our management. That will be a new but interesting challenge, I believe, in the coming years. A bit more of administrative burden, but I believe we can cope with that. And once again, if you are well organized with a sound governance in place, I do not foresee any kind of specific issue with that.
Okay. Carl, just to kind of close off, a few comments about how firm is working with the OECD.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had a couple of meetings with them. The first ones were a bit strange, where they really put the thing straight in the face, I would say, by saying that they were ready to erase the whole captive industry. The second business was much more constructive. Between the two, we've sent them an extensive work that we've done on to educate them, as we said before, and to demonstrate that, for example, the profits that are made by captives, the tax paid by captives, are perfectly in line with the normal insurance industry. So there we have a lot of work has been done, but still we're not there. A lot of work has still to be done. The first part that we did is give them information on the European situation. Now we are in the process of gathering global information, and then we will transfer that also to the OECD. That's what they asked. and based on that they will come with a proposal, and then we hope that they can live in one or the other way with what we propose to them, and that they will put it forward to the tax authorities of all the countries. But still, they have it's a guidance, they cannot impose it, so we will still have to negotiate with all the countries, and then I'm looking further down the line that if, there are a lot of ifs, if OECD agrees with us and if OECD gives it to all the countries, that the countries would also apply it and not go a step further, because theoretically speaking they could. So that's something we hope for. On the future of the captives, indeed, what maybe we should add is that the insurers, the big insurers today have a tendency to go to more standardized policies, while a lot of the larger companies want to have manuscript wordings, and there, depending on how the traditional insurance world would go more towards standardization or to manuscript wordings, there is a bright future for captives, because they will be much more flexible to give those manuscript wordings. And there also is again education, because I mean, one of the questions from the OECD was, why would you give coverage when it's not covered on the traditional market? They say, that's exactly why we need a captive, because we need the coverage. So it's really to make them understand what is going on and why we need the captives for the well-sake of our companies.
And I fully agree. And if you think also about the shape of the market, you know, everybody, then the forum was a fantastic opportunity to meet, you know, reinsurance companies and insurance carrier about, you know, what will be the rate in the future, you know, because we had these, you know, hurricanes in the US and lots of natural catastrophe. So I mean, if the market, you know, start to harden a bit in the coming years, captive is certainly a future, because that's really when they become a relevant tool and when you can have the best use of it.
Because then you could prove that there's really an economic advantage, because your captive would be cheaper than the traditional market. Then it really, then they cannot say anything, because it's cheaper so than to go to the traditional market. So that would also be an advantage for the captives. But I don't want to say that the premiums in the traditional market should increase. That's not what we're saying here.
No. Absolutely not.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for that. I appreciate
you.
the time. Thank you.